my name is Jirka. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Mews, and today with me I have Aldar, our Product Manager, and we will be talking about our vision for hospitality. But as we were listening to the discussions that were happening in the panel, we will be pretty much summarizing what you've just heard, which is, I guess, very good news. We will be sharing some of the pictures from when we were traveling this year, because we were very happy to travel once again. And in this particular picture, you see Matt, our CEO, waiting in a line to get his boarding pass because it wasn't possible online. If we zoom in, I can tell you this is not a happy face. And if you look at other pictures that we took this year, doesn't really matter whether you travel to Spain to stay in a resort hotel, or whether you stay at Heathrow Airport Hotel, you will end up standing in a queue. And if you really think about why do you stand in that queue, you are standing in the queue to make a computer happy, because all that happens at the end of the queue is a transaction. Someone processes with a computer, and then you leave, and the reward that you get for standing in the queue is basically nothing.
So computers are built for doing repetitive tasks, but people are built to have an experience. We travel to have an experience, right? So when you take away the computers and you put them in the background, you put people in the foreground, and you can focus on actually engaging with the guests, focusing on making people happy and building an experience that people can remember, and an experience that keeps people coming back. So at Mews, we've always dedicated ourselves to focusing on making sure that we give hoteliers as much time as possible with their guests. So we do all the heavy lifting and all the administration, all those repetitive tasks that really get in the way of building something truly special. We've been focusing on how can we help the hotel industry spend more time with their guests.
And we've been talking about it in the panel, but obviously the last year was really in the symbol of pandemic that came, and up until then it was almost it didn't really matter what you or everyone have been working on, because the travel industry was doing very well. Everyone was thriving, people were traveling a lot, but then COVID hit, and all the numbers have significantly plummeted. And everyone had to go back to square one, revisit what they're doing, and really start thinking heavily about how to adjust to the post-pandemic world, and how to make sure that also we learn from this pandemic and we will become resilient moving forward.
So we spent a bit of time looking at what the trends are for all the industries in the world, trying to really gain some insights to see where can we take hospitality, what is the future of the industry. And we started with looking at the trends that we saw in the past. So drawing inspiration from other industries, we started off with Adobe. So Leah Hickman was a product manager at Adobe, came up with what seemed a crazy idea at the time, from moving from CDs, which had a single version of the software, moving things over to the cloud, providing users with a wide variety of software so they could continuously use this, but providing a subscription model so they didn't have to purchase something that would expire over time and essentially lose value as they go, which also meant on the side of the companies, they were building something that had an end in terms of the amount they invested to it. So she built out the subscription model for Adobe. And you can look here and see some of the most incredible software, well, was then thought of incredible, but now it's become a daily trend. Think about how many subscriptions you have. So if we look at a couple more examples, we look at things like Netflix, right? VHS tapes. They started selling VHS tapes and having a subscription model in order to compete with Blockbuster so that they could have VHS at someone's doorstep, rather than someone going all the way to a store and picking up these videos. Then they took the next step ahead. They started looking at how do they bring those videos into your home even faster? And now we have Netflix streaming on almost all of our devices. At the click of a button, we have access to a wide variety of movies from all around the world, all through a simple subscription model that we pay once and never ever have to worry about ever again. And we look at what's happening in the travel industry. So if we look at Prince Airlines from India, they've recently started a subscription model as well. Granted that this is a slightly more high scale or luxurious form of doing this, they have a subscription model for airlines where you can actually travel anywhere for a fixed price, and their business is actually growing and soaring from the result of that.
And we have a couple more examples. Kevin from Ideas was in the panel talking about the ski resorts, but there's a huge variety of examples across the world. Amazon Prime membership, that's not purely online, obviously. That's a combination of online and offline services, and you can see that their customer base is growing rapidly. The same with Netflix. And if we move next, we also see that the combination of all the companies that are out there, if we look across of them, they all are growing 7 times faster than the traditional businesses that are not focusing on subscription models. And those are some of the best businesses in the S&P 500 companies. If we go closer to hospitality and we look at some of the examples in the industry, we have Soho House. They survived the year 1 of pandemic with keeping 90% of their members keeping their subscription, and therefore there was a steady revenue stream that Soho House was able to keep throughout the pandemic, while everyone else was trying to figure out how to make some money. And then we have another example from the industry, citizenM. They have been always focused on the business traveler, but a year ago, they refocused a little bit more. They focused on specifically digital nomads, and they introduced their global passport subscription that allows you to roam across their properties globally with a flat fee that you pay for. So if we look at this trend that's really seen across the world, and we think about how to move it into hospitality, we wanted to take some lessons from our own industry, which is software as a service, and therefore we will be talking about hospitality as a service. If we think about subscription-based businesses like ours at Mews, we look at 6 key metrics as a business, and you heard about many of them in the panel discussion prior to this talk. So we will try to shed some light on those metrics in the following couple of slides and try to bring them from the subscription industry much closer to the hospitality into the context that we all know very well.
So we'll start off with the customer acquisition cost. Now, this is a metric that we actually know very well in the hospitality industry. We've been spending years focusing on understanding how we can get as many guests to book directly to cut down costs. We've been trying to move guests from booking from online agencies, things like Google Hotel Connect, and from using OTAs, so that we could cut our costs and increase the revenue we could get from the guests during their lifetime. So if we go on for the next one, we now think of, okay, we understand the cost of how we acquire a guest, but how do we acquire a member? Now, this really starts to shift the paradigm of how we view our guests. Acquiring a member is a little more expensive, but it has its benefits in the long run. The reason it's expensive, though, is because you have to spend a lot more time convincing someone that there really is value and really lifetime value, as was mentioned in the session before, and actually them using your processes, your services, and your facilities. You want to be able to convince someone to make a full commitment. It's not about putting a voucher code there anymore. You're really trying to get someone to engage with you and build a lifestyle. And this is something places like lifestyle brands have started to get really good at, really understanding who their members are and giving them all the services they need that keep them coming back. So right now, it's not about acquiring members from the just traditional method and moving people onto your direct booking engine. You really want to capture that guest from the moment they make the booking online, when they're staying with your hotel, all the way through to the time they leave. You need to explain to them or get them to understand and experience the value that you have to offer. So if we look at the traditional module of the CLV and the LTV, at the bottom part, we can see initially you would spend a fair amount of money trying to acquire a customer. So in the typical short stay model, you then hope to upsell that customer. So in the top section in the gray, you can see that you get an increase in revenue. But as time goes on, the customer leaves, you rely on marketing and things like vouchers to keep the guests engaged and hope they'll come back. And if you're lucky enough, they come back and they spend a little more money with you. And then we begin the dance again. You send a couple more emails, try not to annoy them. And again, they come back, they spend a little more money, and maybe they move on. So if we look at more of a SaaS model, where we're looking at the lifetime value of a customer, the amount that you spend is a little bit more, but rather than then investing large amounts in trying to get that guest and coming back, you've built a relationship, a lifestyle that for them, they can come back again and again because they know the service that they're going to get. And then you suddenly have a more predictive revenue model for a longer period. You know where your revenue is coming from, and you can also then afford to make wiser decisions in terms of forecasting when you think of revenue management. You know how much revenue you're getting, and you can start building a strategy around how to acquire more customers like that. So if we break this up into a longer period, as you go through, your cost of acquisition gets lower and lower as you make more of the actual customer's cumulative lifetime value. You've gone from just asking a customer to spend a lump sum from you once, after spending all that marketing and all that effort and all that engagement, and then hoping they come back again with small bits of engagement in between, to really showing the value of what you have to offer over the lifetime. And that's really what the crux of the customer lifetime value is. So becoming a member. This is something we do almost every day. You can sign up to a membership from your phone with a click of a button. But we all know there's certain things that we expect from becoming a member. So what are they? Well, first of all, we all want the autonomy. We don't want somebody holding our hands over a phone to start a membership, right? We want to be able to create and manage our membership independently. We want to be able to trust that all the information that we provide them, whether it's financial or personal, is safe and secure. But we also want to be able to go back and refer to this information. We want to understand how much we are spending on this. We want to look at the current status of the membership. Have I started on my Netflix account just myself? Am I moving it towards having more members of my family on it? So simple things like this really helps the individual members understand the service. And going back to the fact that you're trying to extend the value of the service you're giving, right? So this level of transparency is really what we look at being required by individual members. So once you have that, you know that guests just want to make the most of their stay. Unfortunately, in the hospitality industry, we're so good at this. We're really great at cross-selling and upselling, but we need to now make sure that we can cross-sell and upsell more, but shorten that payback period, right? Don't spend a large amount of time trying to invest into one customer for a short period. Keep giving them value, keep evolving your business, and keep them guessing and keep giving them a little more for every stay.
And suddenly, every single guest becomes a returning one. It's something that you need to really think about, that these people will be suddenly part of your environment. They will almost become part of the building. They will invite friends to come over, to have a chat with them, to have a meeting with them, to have a coffee with them, to brainstorm. They really need to get the feeling that they are at home, because your spaces, your living spaces, will become their new home that they will use as a safe harbor whenever they are in the city, and they will keep coming back because they have that subscription. And then something that has been touched on as well already, which is monetizing really every square meter, centimeter, square foot, or anything that you measure of your property. The industry is historically talking about average daily revenue per available room. But if you think about these metrics, those are metrics that are covering just a little part of your building. It's a crucial part. It's the part that you've been focusing on for many years. But why don't you convert your lobby into a living space where people can sit down, have a meeting, have a coffee, maybe even a lunch? And why don't you think about how to monetize all the spaces that you actually already have in the property? And maybe just have a think about what spaces do you already have in the property, and you manage them outside of your property management system, and you don't really monetize them. It's bowling alleys, maybe swimming pools, maybe parking spots. Why don't you offer them to public? We've seen some of the hoteliers converting their rooms into rehearsal rooms for musicians. The possibilities are really endless. And then another paradigm shift. 100% occupancy, as we know it, is something that we should really step away. Because if you think about 100% occupancy, it means that your rooms are fully occupied overnight. But what about the day? What about your lobby being utilized? What about the swimming pools? What about all the other spaces that you can think of? So maybe think about your hotel, hostel, or any other property like a plane that leaves every single minute. Because if you think about that plane, it's kind of natural to understand that you need to fuel it, that there's crew in it. So it represents a huge cost to let that plane fly without being full, without selling all the business class upgrades, without selling meals, lottery tickets, coffees, or any other services. So if you look at the floor plan of your property, really try to think about, is this place 100% utilized? Is all my stuff serving someone at the moment? Are all the people who want a coffee having a coffee, or do they walk outside and go to Starbucks? All these things are things that you need to think about. And it's a big paradigm shift, but it's a step really forward towards utilizing your property up to its fullest potential.
Then we think about guest wallets. Payments have become easier and easier. In fact, we all had the expectation that when we make a payment, it needs to be fast, simple, and we've gone from shuffling payments in our wallets to handling digital wallets. And if you actually look at the value of digital payments, I guess wallets, from 2021, it's been 6.6 trillion, but it's estimated to increase to up to 10.5 trillion by 2025. In fact, 84% of consumers are expect to be able to buy what they want, when they want, regardless of the payment method or the payment type that's accepted in a single location.
And we've seen this trend in some of the data. You can, on the right-hand side, see that people are actually stepping away from traditional credit cards because they no longer want to pay the interest fees. And they are stepping towards buy now, pay later, which we love to talk about as sleep now, pay later, when we translate it to hospitality. And the trend is much stronger if you look at Gen Z, which was heavily discussed as well. 43% of consumers between 22 and 44 years old want to be able to have buy now, pay later option when they are purchasing something. And it's proven that when they have this option, the conversion of the e-commerce flows online increases by up to 44%. So it's really something that we've been watching steadily. It's coming, and it's a trend that's far from inevitable.
So we've discussed how LTV and CAC affect the day-to-day in multiple industries. So if you actually look at it and break it down and to really understand the value of it, the lifetime value of your customer becomes 3x of your CAC. So that's 3 times more of what you've invested in an initial product. On the side, in the world of SaaS, 3x is good, 5x is really good. And if you really hit the sweet spot of providing the right service to the right guests, you can go all the way up to 10x in terms of the lifetime value that you can draw from your customers. So if we look at just a 3x multiplier for a basic LTV, that's, you can actually come over, break the barrier of your CAC in just under 12 months, right? And that's just at a 3x multiplier. Once you're able to get the right target markets and really get them coming back and have that ricochet that we have in hospitality where people come back with their friends and their family, that amount gets shorter and shorter. So it's really worth investing that initial cost for acquisition.
And then this is the holy grail. That's monthly recurring revenue. That's a revenue that's steady from a single guest, but it's cumulative because it's coming from all the members that you have on board. And obviously, initially, you will be spending a lot of money on the customer acquisition cost to get a critical mass of members on board. But then if you hit the sweet spot, the magic happens there. And since then, your revenue will copy the profile of a hockey stick. And then Richard and others were talking about it as well, the NPS. Our industry is heavily relying on reviews. Even Mews, we have a tagline that's make it remarkable, because we believe that if a stay provides a wow moment, something that's possible through quality human-to-human interaction, a guest will leave a positive review, and positive review means that other guests will come as well. But if you think about what we look at in SaaS, is how likely are you to recommend someone's company or membership to someone else? And if people will score you 9 or 10, which means that they were extremely happy, that they had the wow moment, that you took the time to provide them with the remarkable experience, then you basically convert your members into your sales army, because they will spread the word. They will talk to their friends, their colleagues. They will spread the word online, on their social media. And suddenly you will have new members coming in with very little cost of acquisition, because the machine that converted them into your members were your existing members. It's very powerful.
So Jurka's just mentioned the value of NPS. And if you look at the numbers on the NPS score, 7 and 8 are your promoters, the people who really felt that wow factor that you gave to the hotel. And just below that are your passives, the people that thought that it was okay. And that leaves the rest being detractors. And detractors create churn. Now, whilst churn is often a really concerning metric, in some ways, it's also a good metric. We mentioned earlier on that having those promoters, and especially being in hospitality where reviews mean so much, right? So you getting the reviews, and like Jurka mentioned again, you get a sales team from your guests. They are sharing things online. They are speaking to their friends and their family. But what about the guests that are not? Now, as I said, it's a bit concerning to know, well, some of those guests just aren't going to come back. Some of the facilities and services that you provided for them maybe just aren't for them. They're not your target market. So you should invest your resources on the guests that bring you the highest amount of revenue, right? So you should focus on that payback period of your CAC by investing in your promoters. People are always going to spread negative views, and oftentimes those are the ones that shout the loudest. But again, if you focus on the sweet spot and understand who your true segment is, that's when you start taking your business to the next level and really start to grow your properties portfolio of the right type of guests for you.
And now a little trick, because you can deal with churn. If you predict churn, and as Alder was saying, churn is something that you will come across, and it's healthy to have it, because as you're looking for product market fit, searching for your ideal customer profile, you will be churning some of the members. There's something that you can do to keep your net new revenue positive, which is expansion revenue. So if you think about your membership, you can always, after a year when the member is really happy, try to upgrade them to a more premium membership. Try to come up with different ways. So for instance, if I have a membership to be able to roam across your properties and stay within different hotels as many nights as I want to, maybe the upgrade to my membership is that I will have unlimited coffee. Maybe it's that I will have 2 hours of meeting rooms every single month. There are ways how to think about extending the membership and therefore expanding the revenue from the existing customer base. And then it's very simple. If that expansion revenue is growing faster than your churn, then you're safe. Your net revenue is a positive one. And now Alder will be talking about how Mews is supporting you going forward, because we mentioned a lot of things, and obviously there's a big journey ahead of us in terms of how do we get from existing traditional models towards subscription models, and what are the steps that we are taking to support you on the way.
So we heard again on the question session earlier, how and where can I get a booking engine that treats things like a basket, that's able to bundle items, so I can package different things for my guests during the stay, so I can actually cross-sell all the services that I have. So this is part of what we want to work on within our guest journey, is really providing you with the ability to sell that inventory that you have, all those spaces, those services, and really allow your guests to pick something that works for them, right? And this is such an important part for understanding who your promoters are, is by providing them with a wide array of services that actually work for them. So we've got a lot coming for you on the guest journey, and we know it's not there yet in a lot of places in the industry, but we have a pretty great vision of where we would like to take this. We see the problem and we are working our way towards solving it. Then there's hybrid spaces. Jirko was mentioning to you earlier how right now we're looking at, okay, what's my percentage occupancy? We look at our ADR, we look at our RevPAR. But what about the rest of the spaces in your hotel? What about the swimming pool that you have that's running empty? The gym that you have that no one really uses during the stay? How are we helping you selling those hybrid spaces? Well, we have a great initiative that we've teamed Space Time, where we are looking at how we can help you actually make use of all those additional spaces during a period. I'll use TSH for a great example, right? Like they have completely reimagined how the foyer works. Being at a TSH hotel and seeing how they're really maximizing the spaces and the atmosphere it creates is incredible. This really is the next step for the industry. The next part is flexible time. Nights are great. They're the traditional model that we sold at, but the way people travel and the reason they travel has changed. What about the digital nomads that want to stay in a different place for a really long period, but not quite permanently? And at the same time, we've got to think about those individual day stay guests that just want to ride a bike for the day, or people who want to use things like co-working spaces. And that's all about allowing you to sell those time periods in a flexible way that's easy to report on, manage, and understand.
And we've touched on alternative payments. We were talking about sleep now, pay later, but that's one of the areas that we are looking into. But there are also, more traditional ways that we still need to be able to accept from existing guests in a very short time frame. Those are all the mobile payment methods and different payment links that you can sell online. Maybe a little bit of touch of some cryptocurrency. It's really a vibrant space where a lot of it is happening. And as we were saying, one of the key trends that we see there is the sleep now, pay later that we will be looking to support as well. And then cash management, because if you accept so many different payment methods from different sources, we really see the pain of reconciling all those payments, going through variety of bank accounts in different banks in different countries, and trying to make sure that everything that should have been paid for has been paid for, managing chargebacks, managing really everything that has to do with accepting payments. But then if we are able to make sure that you have absolute transparency around all the incoming cash, why don't we think about ways how to monetize that cash? How to really think about, okay, there's a large portion of money. How can that make even more money before it's paid out to employees, to electricity providers, and to any other partners that you're working with? So if you walk away from this session with just one thing, we would like to ask you to think about this picture. Think about your property as the plane that's leaving every minute, the plane that needs to be fully upsold, fully upgraded, with all the coffee, all the meals, all the lottery tickets, because subscriptions are maybe a little bit further away, but this is something that we all can start working on today. That's something that Mews is able to support you with existing functionality, with space-time. And it's something that will really try to help you recover from the ongoing pandemic. Thank you for dialing in for our session. And let's have a look whether there are some questions on Slido. Awesome. So the first question is, how and why can hotels allow sleep now, pay later? How do you manage no theft? So this buy now, pay later services traditional work in a way that the party that trusts for the delayed payment isn't the service provider, but it's really the payments provider. So the risk is with them that they believe that the guest will allow them to, will pay them after they consume the service. But the contractual side of it is that the guest is actually a debtor to that party. But in the end, you as a property will be able to receive the money before they actually start sleeping. Next question. Maybe. There's a very specific product question. Where will Mews add/Molly add in PayPal? What other payment options are in the pipeline? I don't know about Molly. We are currently not partnering with Molly, so that's something that you need to ask Molly specifically. But when it comes to Mews, we are looking into PayPal for maybe 15, 16 months. And there is a lot that we're working on to be able to provide that payment method. There are some legal intricacies that we need to figure out with our service providers. But it's something that we work on tirelessly, because we've seen how PayPal has been rising throughout the pandemic. Also in countries like Germany that were traditionally very cash heavy. There's a huge user base of PayPal currently. It's the same in the US. So we heard the message, we absolutely understand it, and hopefully we will be able to deliver it very soon. How can you leverage data to keep guests engaged throughout the customer lifetime? Well, the possibilities are really endless. I would say that the biggest part of the engagement is really to be able to provide the guest with what they need, when they need it, without them really saying it. So that will be the power of the data, where the data will be able to suggest to you when is the right time to proactively reach out to the guest and just, approach them and offer them a coffee because they had a coffee at 3 p.m. every day and it's 14:59. So I would say these are, to create moments like this. Alder, do you want to take the next one?
I can do. Will it be possible to edit customer classifications in the future? So I think this actually goes hand in hand with the previous question, which is all around data and understanding. We spoke a lot about how understanding who your customers are and why they're there actually helps you build towards the future. So as we're looking towards the future ourselves, we know that personalization is going to become an incredibly important part of that, really understanding who your customers are and why they're there. Will we make them fully editable in the future, and exactly when? I can't tell you a fixed date, but this is definitely something we're looking into so that we can allow you to build towards that subscription model that we're speaking about earlier.
The next one is yours as well.
There we go. Is FaceTime just a concept now, or is it something that is already available for Mews customers? So FaceTime is not just a concept now. We have already slowly started rolling up multiple versions of FaceTime, whether it's multiple services, longer time units. It's something that's really been live. There's a lot of beta testers using them. Things like the multiple services are already live for all Mews customers. So it's really a concept that it's out in the world. We're working towards a big goal, but there's a lot of functionality that you can use for it already.
I'll take the next one. How quickly can we deploy and use your subscription solutions? Well, as I was saying, this is a visionary session. We are working with TSH very closely because, as the panel was saying, they are pioneers in this area. And as we will be working together and solving out how this should actually translate to the hospitality platform, we will be more than happy to share this with everyone in the world, and we will be very loud about it. So just watch the space, and the moment we have any tangible progress, we'll definitely let you know. And there's another question whether Mews is going to implement Molly as a payment provider. So to be fair, we've just recently onboarded Jelle, our payments product director or fintech product director, who used to be head of product at Molly. So I think we have an expert on board to help us figure out whether Molly is the right choice for us. But if you are a current Mews user and you really need Molly, it would be great if you would reach out to us, maybe even through our feedback portal at feedback.mews.com, and leave a message so that Jelle can reach out to you and have a chat about why Molly is the right solution for your business.
And I can take the next one. What do you think is the most exciting feature that will be implemented in the next year? So that is an extremely loaded question. I wish I could tell you right now what it was, but we are actually working very hard with the whole of the R&D team right now, going through all the feedback that you've been sharing with us the past couple of years, looking towards our vision for the future and prioritizing exactly how we can get there. Our goal is to build up sort of a roadmap for what will be done next year. Once that's finalized by product teams, then we'll be able to share exactly where we're going next year.
And I guess the next one is for you as well.
Indeed. So do you plan to integrate an allotment feature in Mews, not just external marketplace integration? If so, do you have an estimated release date? So we are actually actively working on availability blocks right now. We have a whole load of incredible partners that we've been working with to beta test that. And by partners in this case, I mean hoteliers who are actively using the functionality in the live environment and testing it out. So it is actually, our goal is to have this rolled out before the end of the year. If you are interested, feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to send you the details of how you can get it live in your Mews property and your testing.
There's a question about what are our next developments and how do we choose between doing it ourselves or leaving it to application partners. So once every once every 4 months, we do a product roadmap webinar. One is closing up. It will be in January. So for the next developments, I would invite you to that because I truly believe that me and Alder will be there and speaking for an hour about what are our next developments. And how are we choosing between doing it ourselves or leaving it to application partners? In the end, it's really a technical choice based on what kind of data needs to be processed and whether that's something that the application provider is actually technically able to provide through an API, or whether it's something that we need to implement. And it's also whether it's core to what we are doing in our vision, whether it's core to being a hospitality cloud platform, or whether it's something that's slightly more adjacent. Then we believe that there are great experts in the industry. Those are these application partners that can actually deliver a great service. And the last question about subscription, whether it will be possible for an independent hotel or whether it will be something for big chains only. I think, we've been talking about chains and chains will definitely be able to provide a little bit like bigger subscription where you can roam across different cities and stay in different properties as you travel. So that's, quite clear. But just a few meters away from our office, there's one of our first customers, Mosaic House, and they have recently renovated. They created a beautiful living space out of their lobby. They have created several rooms with amazing spa. I would love to be a member there because it's really a few meters away from me, so I don't have to travel anywhere, and I can, really enjoy a staycation. Sometimes I could go there instead of to the office and enjoy the vibes of the living space. So, there are definitely possibilities. It's just really about stepping outside of the comfort zone and saying, okay, like whatever is in place today, how can we rethink it and how can we make the property much more attractive to everyone, maybe living next door?